This video is intended to try and help those of you who are thinking of buying a scooter. I can speak from experience when I say that scooters can be amazingly useful if you have a walking difficulty. There are various types of machine. The men always seem to want the largest, the ones that will go the furthest, the ones that will go the fastest. In most cases it's unnecessary, but there are reasons for having those. The ladies often want the much smaller machines, which will go in the back of the car easily, be tiny, very easy to handle. Again, they can be very useful, but there are scooters in the middle, and it's very important to get right the scooter that you need. This depends on what you wish to do with it, whether you want to put it in a car, how far you intend to go, how much you weigh. You must remember that if the scooter is capable of more than 4 miles an hour, then it is intended for use on the road. That doesn't mean you can't go on the pavement, but when you switch it to more than 4 miles an hour, legally it has to be in the road. It also has to have a tax disc. Now, completion of the form to get the tax disc is quite complicated, and we would normally help you through that process. But the DVLA do have a very useful guide that will talk you through it, and they will help you if you go to their premises. The tax disc, once you've got one, is free. You don't have to reapply the following year. It's automatically sent to you, so there's nothing to worry about. However, we'd always say, word of caution, we don't like seeing scooters in the road. The road's a place for cars. If, however, you live in a rural area and your journey will take you on the road because there's no pavement, then by all means look at the faster scooter. It goes twice as fast, therefore you're on the road for half the length of time, which also means you're exposed to danger for half the amount of time. But do think it through before you go down that line. Even the larger scooters will come apart to go in the back of a vehicle, but obviously as the scooter gets larger it becomes more difficult to do so. So again, think about what you want to do with it. Will you want to take it with you in the car? Will you want to take it away for family holidays? We would always say, whatever you think you're going to do with the scooter, double it, because once you've got one, you'll find out how useful they are, and therefore you'll want to use it more. So don't cut too many corners. Now, who to get the scooter from? Nowadays we're inundated with internet, TV adverts, newspaper adverts for all these scooters. I would say be very cautious. I would try and find a supplier who has been around for a long while, who has been supplying the same scooter for a long while, because it's very easy for someone to set up and go, I'm off to China, and come back with a container load of oddball scooters that might be alright, they might be rubbish. They sell them all, they go over to China again and get another container load. They're not worried about continuity, they're not worried about you in a year's time, they just want to get the sale. It's important to know that if your scooter goes wrong, someone can get the parts and someone can repair it, and someone is willing to do so, and at a reasonable price. Prices can vary immensely. If you see an advert on the television for a scooter or an advert in a national paper, bear in mind that advert will have cost an awful lot of money. Someone is going to be paying for it, and it will usually be you. So look around for more low-key companies. We say try and establish a relationship with a local company. We would say that, wouldn't we? But if you find a local company that's good, they will look after you. The scooter may well last you not years but decades, so it's worth making certain that you've got that continuity. Insurance. We are very insistent that customers take out insurance. It is not a legal requirement, even on the road-going vehicles, but you are the one that's at risk. People will tend to step out in front of you, and if that happens and you run them over, it tends to be for you to prove that it wasn't your fault. Now, if you have an insurance, the insurance will take over dealing with that for you, and if there is a claim, they will deal with that for you. So there's no going to court, no filling out lots of paperwork. The insurance will deal with it, and you're safe. The insurance should cost you little more than £1 a week, so it's well worth having. Not only that, scooters can, and it is very rare, be stolen. It is very rare, but it happened to one of our customers 3 days ago. Now that's the first time it's happened in years, but it happened. He wasn't insured, he is now paying out for a new scooter. Very worthwhile having, but that's not the most important reason for having the insurance. The most important is if you hit someone and they sue you, you can lose everything you own, including your home. So definitely consider having insurance. Okay, so let's start looking at the scooters in a little more detail. This is a large scooter. I'm not wishing to recommend any particular make or model, but I've just picked one at random as a good representative of that type. You can see it's got larger wheels. The larger wheels give a better ride. The larger the diameter, the less of an impact it is going over a lump and bump. The larger scooters also usually have suspension, which this one has, which also help the ride. But I think that the size of the wheel is the critical factor. Also with the wheels, tyre pressures. If you run the tyres too low on any of the scooters, the range will be reduced massively. People can think their batteries have gone and all sorts of problems. So keeping the tyre pressure up is important, but with a pneumatic tyre there's a certain variation you can give that can make the ride slightly smoother. With most of the big scooters will always have, because they are for the road, will have indicators and lights as standard. Sometimes people can find the dashboard a little bit daunting, but when you look at it for a few minutes you can see it's very straightforward. With any of the scooters, the controls are pretty much identical. It's usually pull one lever to go forwards, pull the other lever to go backwards. The more you pull it, the faster you go, with a small knob on the top that you can limit the speed. So whilst you're learning, you can turn the speed right down, and no matter what you do, you can't make a mistake. Larger scooters tend to have bigger seats. They also have a larger weight carrying capacity as well. Often they will have a brake, an emergency brake, but to be quite honest, I've never in all my years known of anybody having to use it. The transmission system, which does all the braking on all the scooters, is very efficient and works very well. So that's the large scooter. Now we'll move on to the medium scooter. So here's the medium scooter. As you can see, they're all much of a muchness. The control, same thing, forwards, backwards. This does have lights, even though it's only a pavement scooter, but the whole size is scaled down. The weight carrying capacity is not as great, but this one, for example, will still take 21 stone. The machine's narrower, which is in some cases better for getting around shops, parking it in the hall, that sort of thing. Small basket, as they all have, for carrying bits and pieces, but not too much weight, because if you do, it makes the steering heavy. Now, this scooter will also come apart to go in the back of a car. Not as easy as the small ones, but I'll come back to that later, and you can see what this looks like when it's disassembled for carrying in a car. Here's an example of a small scooter. As you can see, not vastly different from the medium scooter, and you can go a little bit smaller with the scooters. Simple to put in the back of a car, and I can show you. Remove the basket, remove the seat. In fact, the armrests will also come off. This particular model, when you remove the batteries, it also prepares the scooter for taking apart. Pull the lever to drop the tiller. And here you see the small pieces that will go into the car. The back half is quite heavy, but it has a handle. The batteries, again, quite heavy, but a handle. The front, not too heavy, but awkward, so you do need to be able to have some lifting capacity. Reassemble, very straightforward again. I'm trying not to make this look too easy, because obviously I've done it a few times. And we always suggest practicing at home before you do it in anger, because it'll probably be raining. So there's a good little scooter that's car portable. That's how long it takes to put in the car. Disadvantages of the small scooter are, because of the small batteries, and this particular model does offer slightly larger ones as well, it makes it, its range is reduced, but its range for the average person is still going to be 3 to 5 miles, something like that, and that's being pessimistic, which we always are. But now a word of caution. Various scooters have appeared over the years which sound to be the answer to everything. We're told they'll do vast mileage and they're very, very portable. And here's an example of one. They tend to be very, very expensive, and this one is probably nearly twice the price of the one you last saw. It has lithium batteries. Lithium batteries are very expensive when they need replacing. They are, however, very lightweight, which, to be quite honest, is immaterial, because even if you take them off this scooter, it's still very heavy. This particular scooter comes apart by undoing these catches, which do have a habit of breaking and are extremely expensive to repair. Then you have to remember to either lower it carefully or keep your hand out of the way when the seat comes down. The whole scooter then tips up and folds away in what appears to be a very neat little package, and lowers down. The problem then comes, you have one small package to put in the back of the car, except for the fact it is very, very heavy. And I don't believe that the average person, particularly the average spouse, is going to be able to lift that on their own into the back of the car. So you end up with an expensive scooter, doesn't go very far, has very expensive batteries, has components on it that break with monotonous regularity, are very, very expensive to repair. Now, it may well be that if you're a traveller who goes by air a lot, something like this might suit you, but do go into it with your eyes open. So that covers the basic models of scooters, and there are various manufacturers making them. But do remember what I said about sticking mainstream, something that's been produced for a while. Now we'll go back to the larger machine, which is a medium-sized scooter, which will also come apart to go in the back of the car. I usually tell people that this will take about a minute longer than the smaller one, and the components will be more awkward, but it's still practical for a day out. The seat removes in exactly the same way. The basket lifts off exactly the same way. Now we reach the back cover comes off. Now this is when things start to change, in that you can actually see the components here. The batteries are something like 3 times the size of the smaller scooter, which obviously means it will go 3 times as far, if not more. They unplug very simply. You cannot get the plugs wrong, they're colour coded. The batteries are sealed, so it doesn't matter if they tip over, which is the same with all of them. And everything folds down, and we cheat by using the battery strap to contain the tiller, to stop it flapping around. Some people will put the machine into the car like that, by lifting the front and then going around the back and lifting. If it's still too large, 2 plugs, a pin, and it will come apart. So you can see you have a machine that will go 3 times as far, be more comfortable because it's larger, but still will go in the back of the car if you're able to lift the larger, heavier and slightly more awkward components. And a lot of people still use these. A few have different scooters for different needs. They'll have a larger one from home and a small one from in the back of the car. So these are the important things, these are the basic facts about the scooters, and I hope this has helped, and good luck.